This is amazing to come here at this time and look around the room and see many of our partners that we've worked with over the last, actually Monday, yesterday would have been 8 years since we launched the Empowerment Network. It's kind of hard to say sometimes, but 8 years. And if you don't mind, because of the context that we're in with incidents even as recent as last night, and then the theme of Ferguson and across the nation, if you refer back into the late 60s, the last time there was this consistent series of riots, if you want to call it that. Some people call them rebellions. Am I right, Michael? But if you think of the sense of that, in 1968, there was a report written, the Kerner Report, which you may be familiar with. And in that report, LBJ had asked, why is our country burning? What's going on in these cities? And the report came back with the unrest that was going on and the police-community relations that were happening at that time. What they came back to in that recommendation was, unless we as a nation address employment, housing, police-community relations, education, and support services for those that are in poverty, we will be not only facing these same issues again, but it will be even worse the next time it happens. That was in 1968. How does that context relate to where we are in Omaha? As those buildings were burning and we're watching those things happen last night, you may not realize, most of you, well, you may realize, but just not too far from here, an incident in the late 60s with a police incident literally caused the rebellions and riots to happen that literally burned down 24th Street. So here we are, 50 years later, looking at how do we collectively rebuild after that point. Everybody with me? So the question that was posed to us is, why does the Empowerment Network even exist in the first place? Why are you here? What do you do? And I wanted to take you back to that because it touches on that very essence. Omaha is very well known as very successful, in many ways, a great city. You hear about it in the Wall Street Journal, you hear about it in the New York Times, you hear about it in Forbes. Great city to raise a family, great city to do business, great place even now for young professionals to come. So there's a lot of great things happening in Omaha. Fortune 500 companies, Warren Buffett, the list goes on, College World Series. This is what Omaha is known for, primarily around the country. The other thing that Omaha is known for is that when it wants to get something done, it has a way of getting it done. Whether that's public-private partnership or whatever it takes, we have a way of building a CenturyLink. We have a way of building a destination Midtown. We have a way of building a $140 million baseball stadium. We have a way of getting things done when we decide to get it done. What we realized in 2006, and it wasn't a surprise to most people, but in 2006 we had to take a hard look and realize that North Omaha, and African Americans specifically, were not partaking equally in the greatness of the city. So how do we address that, and what do I mean by that? This is just an example from 2006. The graduation rate, for example, for the city as a whole is 90%. In 2006 it was 49% for African American young men. And we just had to make a decision that that's unacceptable. And not to say that people weren't doing work. There was work going on. There were programs and initiatives going on, but collectively, we didn't see the dial being moved. As a matter of fact, Michael Maroney, who's here with us, President, CEO of Omaha Economic Development Corporation, shared with us in 2006 that his organization had just recently completed a study. The study looked at 1975 and 2005 and looked at all the factors related to North Omaha. And what they determined in that study was that North Omaha was either worse off or the same as in 1975. That's what was determined in 2005. So we knew that even with initiatives and programs and faith communities working and doing things in North Omaha, it was not moving the dial at the rate that we knew it needed to be moved. So we asked this question: if we work together, can we make measurable progress on this front? Just as Rebecca was just saying, there's individual efforts going on, and we are excited that Creighton is doing good work all over the city, and there are pockets where you're doing it in North Omaha in partnership with us and with other partners, and we're beginning to really move the dial. But this was the same question that we asked 8 years ago: can we really move the dial? The other thing that we wanted to focus on right away is rather than us being another organization that's going out asking someone to give us something, what is our personal responsibility? Are we willing to do our part? Are we willing to do our part as individuals? Are we willing to do our part as bringing community together? What is it that we need to do? The second piece is leadership accountability. As we're doing our part, whether you're a leader here at Creighton, a mayor, a city council member, elected official, a pastor, a faith leader, educator, whoever you are, as in a leadership position, it has to be just as unacceptable to you and to us that we have a 49% graduation rate in our community. That we as African Americans are only 4% of the population of the state of Nebraska, but 25% of the prison population. That has to be unacceptable to us as leaders. And then realizing that we have to do it together. There's no other way for us to get this done. So we're encouraged by the invitation to be here today. I want to walk through a few more things with you, and then I'll pause and ask some of our members maybe to make a few comments. But when we came together, these are the core elements that we looked at. Employment, education, housing, of course, everything we do is based in faith and hope, violence prevention and justice, healthy families, and then this arts, culture, business, and entertainment. How do we really drive this home with celebrating our culture? So what's happened since then? Over 500 organizations, businesses, faith communities have participated in various summits and forums, designing this process. We didn't want it to be another top-down strategy that was driven by this group in a room. It was, how do we really listen to the residents? What do they want for their community? What are the priorities that we have? So we had meetings for jobs and business, violence prevention summits, health and healthy family summits, education summit, where we had over 400 people come together and identify what are the priorities regarding education in North Omaha and around our city. And then we established working groups that get together. For example, this Omaha 360 initiative, which is focused on violence prevention, has grown from 3 individuals to now over 300 organizations. Many of them come together every single week, focused on how do we continue to reduce gun violence and gang violence in our city. We also have met with the mayor, the city council, the governor, other department leads from the state, the county level, and many of them have formed at different levels partnerships with us to move this initiative forward. So, after all of those meetings and conversations, where are we in the process? One of the things that we identified as a priority based on what our residents were saying in North Omaha is at one point we had 3,000 jobs in North Omaha during the summer. 3,000 jobs primarily for at-risk youth. By the time we started in 2007, there were only 30 organized jobs because of federal cutbacks and other program cutbacks. We have worked with our community and other partners in the room to grow that. In 2012, we had our largest amount, then we faded a little bit the last couple of years. This year, we're looking to be closer to 800, hopefully back to 1,000. And summer jobs may not sound that significant, but the goal has been, how do we make sure that our young men and women are exposed to work ethic, getting up early, dressing, getting on the job, getting exposed to careers. So summer employment for our youth has been a major strategy that we've worked on. The other thing is there's a piece on African Americans and there's a piece on North Omaha. Let me just show you some of the statistics regarding African Americans over the last few years. The graduation rate in 2002 was 55%. When we started in 2006-07, it was 62%. As of last year, it is 81% within the Omaha Public Schools District. So more kids are going on and graduating from high school. Okay, the next question is, if they're graduating from high school, are they going on to post-secondary? This is from 56% going on to post-secondary, and now 68%, it's actually now 63% for 2013, going on to post-secondary. The bigger question now is, how prepared are they now going to college? So they're graduating, we're going on to college, but what we're finding, can you see this okay in the back? What we're finding is our ACT scores are pretty close to the national average, but neither one are high enough to really get us to where we need to get to. So we have now put more focus on making sure that more kids are taking ACT. We've gone from 43% to 49% taking ACTs. The other one is advanced placement. Still not where we want to be, but we've doubled the number of kids taking ACT and AP courses. So what we've identified is, by working collectively, yes, we can move the dial. And as Rebecca said, it's not just the Empowerment Network, because we're a small team of 3 people plus some part-time workers. We have these collaborative groups like the Urban League with Tom Warren, who's here. Let's recognize him. Tom Warren, CEO of the Urban League. I mentioned Michael Maroney. He is the president, CEO of Omaha Economic Development Corporation, the largest nonprofit developer in the city, and 40 years doing this work on housing development. Michael Maroney. And I think Kenny McMorris, the new CEO of Charles Drew Health Center, who's been a partner with the network from day one, and now his new position is leading the efforts in health in North Omaha, Mr. Kenny McMorris. I also don't want to leave out the team that we have on staff. The person that came in 2 years ago to help us lead our violence prevention initiatives, Jamie Anders Kemp, is here with us. She's the Omaha 360 director. And I mentioned this before, we move in faith, and thank God Vicki Quates-Ferris joined the Empowerment Network as a team member. She's our Director of Operations. She joined in 2009, Vicki Quates-Ferris. So the question then is, if we work collectively, can we move the dial? We can move the dial. The question is, how do we take it even further and accelerate the pace of that growth, realizing that we're nowhere close to where we really want to be yet. It was talked about geography and space. One of the things that we identified working with Michael and others, and Creighton University, who was a part of the steering committee with our Village Zone plan, was this right to the north of Creighton University was the heart of the African American community. The arts, the culture, the jazz, the big band sound, everyone that was in the music scene, the big players, they came to North 24th Street, just down the street here. And so, with the leadership again of Michael Maroney and others, we said, what if we could really rebuild and make this a catalyst for all of North Omaha? So from Cummings Street to Pratt, 16th to 36th Street, we began to identify not what's wrong necessarily with North Omaha, but what are the assets that we can build on. So can we build on 24th and Lake? Can we build on Cummings Street? And rather than looking at Cummings Street as a divider, is there a way for us to figure out how to work with Creighton University and partner with Creighton University? What do we do up here at 30th and Lake, the historic home of Prospect Village? What do we do with Malcolm X, one of the most significant players, African-American players in the world that was born here? How do we build on that? So we worked over a 3-year period, had hundreds of people participate in the planning discussions, and what they came out with was a vision of basically rebuilding this village. Let you know again, as we're working collectively, this is the Fairdale Urban Village Complex, led by Michael Maroney, that has been built, part of a $12 million urban renewal and urban development project. St. Richard's, which is just outside of the village zone, but it's led by Holy Name. It's actually a $30 million development, senior housing, community center, and other work. Just up the hill, the Prospect Village Initiative, there's a lot of conversation about that initiative. It actually started by the residents, identifying in their neighborhood vacant lots, issues in that area that they wanted to improve. Michael Maroney and his team, with some funding, purchased 100 vacant lots, began to build new homes. The city became interested in the project because of the residents saying, this is what we want to see. Since that time, there's a $25 million redevelopment that's been approved by the city, and just announced recently the 75 North project will be an $80 million to $90 million project at that same location, 30th and Parker, where we started 7 years ago. That's part of the 75 North project. And then we're very happy to see, again, in partnership on the health side, working with Creighton, working with CHI and the community, we hosted a series of forums to identify what are the most pressing needs, health needs in North Omaha. And we're very excited in that this new center that will be built just across the street will be a $35 million initiative that will house much of what the community has been asking for on the health side. The top 5 things that the community said they wanted to see will be inside of this center. Cultural side, our goal has been to bring people back into North Omaha and expose them to the great things about North Omaha. We started with this, rather than waiting for buildings to be built, we decided, can we create a festival to bring people back to 24th and Lake? And this is Christmas in the Village, where in our 4th year, over 3,000 people came down on a one-day celebration just down the street at 24th and Lake, where we have carriage rides, businesses, music, and just, again, bringing the flavor of North Omaha to life. I'll skip past that one. We also work on policy. As you're looking at these, think about ways that your department, your area is either engaged in these types of things, whether it be policy related, but we knew that we couldn't get this done by ourselves. Working with elected officials, there are certain policies that we've worked collectively on to help move the dial. Small emerging business ordinance, focus school, which feature extended day, extended year opportunities for kids. These are the types of things on the policy side that we've worked collectively over the last 7 years. And let me end with this, because this is usually what gets the headlines. What's happening on the violence prevention side? Since 2007, this is citywide, there were 247 gun assaults and citywide in Omaha in 2007. In 2013, that number had been reduced to 182. Still 182 too many, but we're moving the dial. In the Northeast precinct, you see an even more pronounced decrease. In 2007, actually 2008 is when it spiked out and peaked out as far as gun violence in Northeast Omaha. Since that time, we have reduced gun violence in the Northeast quadrant by 43%. And so those are the headlines that typically you don't see, but there's been a 43% decrease over time. And then the other thing that we've noticed, during the summer months, where we have employment opportunities, we're working very closely with the police department and the neighborhoods, there's been a 62% reduction in gun violence during the summer months, May, June, July. So we know that we can collectively move the dial. Let me stop there for a minute. And I've gone through a lot of statistics and 7, 8 years of work in about 10 minutes. Let me stop and see if there's any questions that you might have. We have been deeply involved with the Office of Violence Prevention, some of the state senators over time on prison reform, juvenile justice reform, and we have made recommendations with them on the biggest thing that came out of some of our summits that we've had around that topic was judge discretion. And again, just speaking up just straight out with it is that there's some things that definitely need to be put back into the hands of the judge. Some of these mandatory minimums are just simply putting people, in some cases, low-level offenses into prison when they could be treated in alternative programs that are less expensive and more effective. So we have been actively involved in that conversation with state senators around that topic. Thank you for the question. So what we've taken now, over the last 7, 8 years, what have we learned? Where do we go from here? And we've given you some handouts that show the various strategies that have been developed. With the input of over 3,000 adults, 2,000 plus young adults, they've helped us craft these strategies, and we'll get deeper into that as we go deeper into conversation. But let me leave you with this. Geographically, we have broken down North Omaha into what we call 8 village areas. The area that we have really implemented most of our work in what we call Village 1 and 2 is just north of Creighton. We have identified the schools in that area. We have specific programs and initiatives within that school. And they're, again, working all of North Omaha, but specifically drilling down inside what we call the village zone. And I won't spend a whole lot of time on this, but in each area we've identified strategies and initiatives that are going on in employment, our Cradle to Career strategy, housing and healthy families, safe neighborhoods, and arts and culture. So our goal has been within that area, that geographic area, how do we really collectively connect those organizations, connect with residents, prepare the right information that's needed, and then figure out how we can collaborate moving forward. So where we're headed now is, based on the work that we've done the last 8 years, over the next 10 years, what are the possibilities for us? We believe, I want to make sure you hear me, based on what we've seen, that over the next 10 years, if we truly collaborate, align our efforts, and make strategic investments, there is no question that we can truly close the gaps that have existed in this city for far too long. Part of it is strategic reinvestment, money that we're spending on the back end in prisons and jails and all the other things. If we were able to shift a percentage of that to the front end and expand some of the education and entrepreneurship programs and other things in our community, there is absolutely no question that we can close these gaps in 10 years or less. There's more we can talk about, but I want to make sure we take time to get into any questions that you may have about what I've said so far, or any comments that you want to make at this point. Let me stop there.
At some point, I work here at Creighton, but I felt for a long time that Creighton is kind of a stranger to North Omaha, maybe as an advocate, not to these individual partnerships. So I think at some point it would be good if we at Creighton knew more of the history. You know, you mentioned the sixties, but even earlier history and how, what's transpired here, I think of the expressway, and also maybe the role that Creighton has played through these now, quite a few generations. I know this isn't the day for that, but I think it would help
Right.
build the kinds of trust you're talking about.
Excellent question, comment. That's very helpful to know the rich history of North Omaha, and even the rich history of Creighton partnering with people in the community over time, and some of the things that were generated because of those types of partnerships. But I think that's, as a capturing a next step, that's a great comment. What else can we learn collectively about the incredible history of North Omaha and how it has partnered with Creighton University? Good, thank you. Other questions or comments, observations? Laura?
Willie, I think it'd be great if you shared some of the entrepreneurship initiatives that you're working on. That's really exciting stuff.
Yeah, thank you. Everybody hear the question? On the entrepreneurship side, we have really started to put even more focus on developing strong businesses in North Omaha. Over the last 2 years, we have gathered over 200 African-American owned businesses. We meet once a month on access to credit and capital, marketing strategies, training strategies, and getting to support those businesses so we can generate more economic vitality in North Omaha and keep those dollars circulating in North Omaha. We have known by the Chamber study from a few years ago, anywhere from $250 to $300 million is basically exported out of North Omaha every single year. And in order to have a strong, I'm preaching to the choir, but in order to have a strong community and neighborhood, you must have businesses and keep those dollars circulating within that community. So we have created an entrepreneurship pathway that shows those that are starting a business or are interested in starting a business, what is the pathway within North Omaha. And I'm very excited in that we're starting to track how many new businesses have actually been started in North Omaha. And then this last year, there were 45 or so businesses launched in North Omaha. And now working on access to resources to help make sure that they're growing. Thank you, Laura. Yes?
I was just going to ask, does the entrepreneurship part include construction contracts as well?
Yes, yes. There's the entrepreneurship, which is more retail service side. We also are working collectively with the city, with OPS and OEDC and others, looking at the contractor development piece. Omaha Small Business Network and others are working with us to develop a similar pathway for them, for training, and then also making sure they're certified, and then what happens to the contracts once they're inside the city or within OPS. We're right in the midst of that right now. Thank you for the question. Yes?
This is so very helpful. What message would you want us to bring to the average employee at Creighton?
What message? The first one is that collectively, we can truly transform this. It's not impossible. We know with the work that's going on with many, literally hundreds of organizations, we can make a major difference, measurable difference in our community. The second thing is, what's your expertise, what's your interest? Because based on the transformation plan, there's a place for everyone to plug in, whether it's from arts and culture, justice, research. There's a place within this plan, and as Rebecca said, there's an opportunity for us to show what's possible in Omaha when the community partners with a very strong institution and what we can collectively do together. So the first thing is that it is totally possible to move the dial, and the second one is there is a place that you can find yourself and can do some great work in partnership with the community. Thank you. I know there's some other pieces that we need to move on to, so I'm going to cut it a little short so we can move on. But thank you so much for your time. Thank you even for being here today and being a part of this.